You're locked and loaded to another episode of the What's Next podcast. Phil, a whole brand new studio, a new environment. Gee whiz, we've outdone ourselves here, haven't we?
This is a sensational little wee spot for the lads, stepping it up for 2025, creating our own little wee space.
Yeah.
Where the world can now see us, not only hear us, and just gives us another platform or mechanism to be able to distribute content much further and wider to a lot more people who probably need our help.
Well, we believe that no one is doing more in the SME space and for everyday Kiwi people to learn more about financial literacy and business literacy. And if we can do that, then we can have better business owners, we can have a better economy, we can have a better country, and people can do better in general. So, as always, let's tear into it, mate. We'll acknowledge, firstly, because no doubt someone will let us know in YouTube, oh, your exposure's too much or something. Yes, we know. We're bloody accountants, not video geeks. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. But anyway, we were having an interesting conversation with a business owner recently, and we thought that there may be some lessons in there for everybody. Now, we often encourage people to think about this, and this is to actually get to know your numbers. We've run workshops on this, we've run in-person events at the office to help people understand their numbers, but every week we are blown away by the decisions people make without actually consulting the numbers first.
The case study that you're about to share, it sometimes makes me wonder where you can go, hello, like, are we just talking to ourselves? Because so often people call us, oh, we've listened to this or we've read that, but we did the opposite of what you guys have suggested and now we're in this position and we need your help. It's just fascinating.
I think over the years, what we've noticed is that it's often creative type business owners.
Yeah.
The engineers and the real like strategic, mathy type people.
Nerds.
Yeah. They'll quite often go to the numbers and they get it and they'll understand margin and they're all about it and I'm not doing that, it's not enough margin in it.
Yeah.
A creative person will be like, well, why wouldn't I do that? Like that's awesome. And people told me I should do it.
Yeah.
And like, well, why not? Like I can do it, so then I'm doing it. And then we'll dig into it and be like, oh, but it's not going to work financially. Oh, like, nah, it still seems like a good idea. And they're massively the other way. Now, I think we've got a good blend of clients that they know more about themselves and they're pretty self-aware. So they'll ask for help and they'll say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. You know, what do you think? And don't get me wrong, like the creatives can overlook it all, but easily on the other side, the engineers and the overthinkers can like push it to the nth degree too.
Go the other side, analysis paralysis, and then they're doing absolutely nothing because it's just like, oh, what if this happens or what if that happens? Whereas the creatives that you're talking about are going, let's not worry about what might happen, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
And then go, oh no, maybe we shouldn't have done that once it all turns to custard.
So I think what we see in SME world in New Zealand, and this is designed to help you try and avoid some of these mistakes. So it's very easy to start a business in New Zealand. And we get out there and the market seems to want what we want. And so we go, okay, we're going to do a bit more of this. The market keeps buying it and realize, oh, I've actually got a business here. This works. And then you keep going. And then you start doing a bit of marketing and that's working and there's still enough margin in what you're doing to be able to sell the good or the service. And then someone comes along and they say to you, oh man, like you should scale this. Like, oh, you should get a premises. You should be hiring. Oh, you need this product. Oh, you should be selling this service. And your brain goes, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can do all those things. So then like, why not? And all you look for is the upside of why you should do it or you're told you should do it. But then that person walks away and they carry on with their life and then you've got to go and build the business or do the thing. And then eventually you get in touch with an accountant or someone like us and say, this is what I've done. And we look at the profit and loss, which is effectively just an output in terms of numbers of the decisions that you've been making. And then we start to have some very tough conversations about the decisions that have been made.
Yeah, and more often than not, those creatives, they're so emotionally invested in the idea that they've come up with, thinking, oh, my business, yeah, it's great this. And it's like the novelty has worn off and they just get bored and it's just lost its shine or allure. And it's just like, oh, here's this other thing. Have you thought about doing this? And poof, away they go and it's the new cool thing. And yes, it's exciting, but it can be quite dangerous because it takes your eye off what you were originally doing in business that makes you money in the first place. And then these people come to us and go, oh, I'm in this position. And then when you actually break it down and go, oh, well, it's actually tied to this idea that you had. And by the time we break it down, actually, it's taking money out of your business that it's like, oh, really? Oh, no, I didn't know that. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And often as well, we'll get questions from people saying like, oh, what can you see in my numbers? But a profit and loss or a set of statements of financial data are normally a lagging output of the inputs that you've had. So if you're asking in September, like, oh, what can you see in my numbers from back in 31 March? It's like, it doesn't really matter because you might have completely changed the person that you are that's now running that business, or you might have changed the way that you're doing things. So that's why we're always hot on, looking at your information more regularly and timely data and actually keeping people abreast of the decisions that you're making so that the financial information that's dropping out actually matches up with the decisions that you're making.
Spot on. And I think one of the top tips that I would advise to a business owner here is if you've got something like this in your business where you're going, hey, I'm doing, and we talk about sometimes on the podcast T-shirts, right? And you go, oh yeah, somebody said to me, oh, hats are the next cool thing. And you just go all in on hats. Before you do that, it would be a really good idea to actually get some high-level numbers and then spend some time and money with a professional like an accountant or a financial advisor, somebody that understands numbers, and go, look, help me understand this on a deeper level when it's at scale. That if I do this and work on all of these numbers, what's it going to look like? And then secondly, challenge me on what my blind spots are and what I might have forgotten about, because we're so emotionally invested in some of this stuff that all we're looking at is just the upside, and then the accountant is often the bearer of the bad news, and sometimes maybe that's why we've got such bad bloomin' reputations and perceptions out there, is just like, oh man, they take all the joy out of it. But no, we're not taking the joy. We're just trying to be realists about going, hey, if you do this, you also need to think about, oh shit, you're hiring this person. Have you thought about office space? Have you thought about the non-financial stuff? Because by the time you hire more people, it changes the dynamic of your business, and there's other challenges that we know that come with people.
Yeah.
Do they need a car? Have you thought about how you're going to finance that car? What's their lifestyle? How much time do they have off? How's that going to fit into the sales cycle of your business? All of these other things, rather than just, oh, I've got this idea to sell hats. I'm going to buy these hats for blooming $10 and I'm going to sell them for $30 and I'm going to do it online and I've got these cool little things on them. There's all the other stuff around the edges that you need to consider, because it's going to take you away not only time and thinking, but financially from your core business that is obviously doing all right, because if it wasn't doing all right, you wouldn't be thinking about getting distracted by this other thing that you think is going to be, oh, gee, this is the cool thing that I must do for my business. Yeah,
I think part of it is the old shiny object syndrome, but also as humans, I think to get more, we always assume that we have to like launch more or do more of something new. And often with business owners, we're sitting them down and going, what has been working? Where did you start? Okay, where's that data? And they want to be like, I want to be over here talking about all this sexy stuff we're going to do. And we're going like, no. Like, what about this? Because this is profitable. This is working. The market told us that it is. So why don't we focus on that? Oh, but that's not cool. It's not shiny. It's not sexy. But what happens for creative people, to stick with the hat example, is someone comes along and they send them an Instagram page and there's 80,000 followers of this hat thing.
Yeah.
And they'll go like, bro, you should be doing hats, man. Like, you're doing T-shirts, should be doing hats now. And then you look at it and you go like, oh shit, like they've got 80,000 followers and blah, blah, blah. So then you go down the path of doing hats and you haven't really even squeezed the T-shirts yet. But as we always say, you don't know like how they're performing, what they're actually selling. And I've seen in the event space, people talking about, right, all these big events that are coming up and whatnot. And then I'll check in with the people that are selling the tickets. I'm like, what's the ticket sales like? There's all this awareness and attention on the surface.
Yeah, that makes it look
great. And you think like, wow, this is going to be like sold out and it's cranking. Like, shit, sales been really slow, eh? Big difference between someone keying in their financial information and transferring their hard-earned over than like liking something on social media or following something.
Yeah.
And that's where I think sometimes we have to stop and go, right, less is more. Why don't I go back to what actually works and 80-20 it? And we often talk about this in terms of with clients in e-commerce, they'll have their key products that they sell, but then they'll bolt on like 100 others because Sally came into the store and said like, oh, you guys should be doing this. Oh, do you guys do this? Can I get one of those? Oh yeah, we can do that for you. And then you order 10 of them. And then there's 9 of them that are unsold.
And it's in e-commerce, it's so easy to be able to go, oh, I can now sell hats. I'll create a product. I'll create a page. It's all done in a matter of moments. And thinking, great, we've now got something else. But by adding that in there, you're just adding so many more layers and problems that could potentially happen.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key things for me thinking about it is it really highlights for any business owner, whether you're creative or not, that there's a potential lack of direction or ultimately what you're trying to achieve in your business. That if you've got a really clearly defined goal and vision about what you want your business to be or to look like in the future, and you're just so passionate about it, you will do everything that you possibly can to go, right, I need to do these steps, work through all of the stuff to achieve whatever that is. If you don't have that and you're laser focused on that goal, you're going to be more prone to distraction because you don't have the clarity or know where you're going. You're just like, oh, I've got this business that's making money. I'll go and do this.
Yeah.
And I'll go and do that. The other classic one, and it's not necessarily creatives, it's business owners, but it's absolutely punishing, is, oh, I'm doing really well. Oh, Phil, Luke, I've got this really good idea. I'm going to get into property development.
My uncle did one.
Yeah.
Made like $200,000 million one time. Trillion, actually, I think it was. Can't remember.
Oh, and
it's easy.
And the neighbour Barry over the fence, he's done a couple of them. And oh, mate, I tell you what, he's just absolutely living the dream.
We might even partner on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't even know the bloke, but might even partner on it. Just
Easy.
Go like 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy. Oh, guys, no, we've got to do this. There's an easy 50, 100 grand. And look, we can just flip it. The market, it's coming good. Nah, said no one ever. Like, oh.
Focus on your business.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's just that emotion and rose-tinted glasses that business owners have of just trying to chase something. And I think it comes back to you just don't really know what it is you're chasing in the first place. Get clear on that. And then the property piece, you're just like, no, I don't need to worry about that because that's a distraction. And when you actually look at property development and the amount of times that this comes up with clients once they kind of reach this phase of their business that they feel like they've clocked, and it's like, well, what's next? And it just seems to be, oh, property. That's what everybody does. It's yuck. You know, there's so many more things you can do in your business before you start and go, yeah, I'm going to get into property, but property development. But then by the time you crunch the numbers and you go, oh yeah, I've cleared what I was thinking I was going to do in the outset of the project, 50 grand, has actually now turned out to 20 grand gross. I've got to pay tax on that at 39% because you're already a high earner, and it's taken you at least 6 months to achieve that. And that's just the cash, let alone the bandwidth that it's taken away from you.
Opportunity cost. Yeah.
I reckon as a business owner, you've lost. You could find a way to make 20 grand in your business focusing on what it is that you actually do and do it much quicker than the 6 months and the punishing pain that comes with property.
Yeah, or even focus on making your business more valuable and that's sold tax-free.
Yeah.
So you save yourself 40%. Yeah, I think part of it, mate, might be that, you know, entrepreneurial people, we can keep spotting, and people in business, like you train yourself to spot opportunities. So then as soon as you do have an opportunity, you think everything's a big opportunity. So one customer asks for the hat, and then you think, like, oh shit, okay.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah, and even the other day I saw, it might be Lamborghini or Ferrari, you might know, they've made a baby stroller.
Oh, really?
And
I wouldn't know, I'm not in the market, but clearly you are.
Maybe that's what I'm
getting targeted.
Yeah. And it's really expensive. It looks shit ass. It's just this plastic thing.
Must be a Lamborghini then.
Yeah, I think it's a Lambo. I think you might be right. And it's got like a Lambo thing on it, but it's like they're only making 1,000 of them.
No way.
Clearly to just drive demand and be like, okay, we can find 1,000 suckers that will be like, I can never afford a car, but I can afford one of these.
Yeah.
But then you would think, well, like, you know, why don't they do 100,000 of them? Like, why don't they focus on that or whatever? But clearly, like, someone's gone, like, okay, this is something we're going to play with.
Yeah.
And then I think we see people like that doing it. And so then we're like, well, like, what else should I be doing? But not every opportunity is for us. And often we have massive opportunity in our business that we're not focusing on because we've let ourselves be distracted by all the noise on the outside.
And people might be listening to this and go, well, Phil and Luke, what's the opportunity that you speak of? And I think this is where business owners can come unstuck because they immediately go into this phase of like, I'm looking for something that I don't know exists, and then they overthink it, It's something as simple as asking yourself, when did you last increase your prices? And we were talking with a client in recent times that they're potentially looking at selling their business, given their circumstances, a whole heap of different things. But we're going, well, okay, if you are, then let's work through a plan of going, let's structure this to actually squeeze as much as we possibly can between now and when you ultimately sell, so we're increasing business value. Where's the opportunity in here? Right, let's start at the top, sales. Okay, this is your product. When did you guys last increase your prices? 2 years ago. In an economy that we know is absolutely strapped with cost of living, price pressure, inflation, all of the stuff, there's every reason to increase the prices, and they haven't done it. Like, that's opportunity, and they've missed it, and they're transacting every single week. Like, there's a lot of volume going through this business. They've missed potentially thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of pure profit.
Yeah, straight to the bottom line. Increase the sales straight to the bottom line. Yeah. Or even like reviewing margins. And we know that people don't do that.
No.
Yeah. I think I've got a saying here, and it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this is what I said to a business owner recently. So to kind of summarize all of this or take you through the journey, now I was speaking to somebody who was doing pretty well in business. And if we go back to our story at the start, they get out there, they start selling. Now, then they get to a point where it's, someone has suggested, why don't you hire? Why don't you go into this space? And so then they do that in the 2025 financial year. 2024, they're profitable. They're enjoying business. They're taking drawings and everything's going well. The advice is, or the suggestion is like, why not grow it? People and office space. Cool. But don't then go and run numbers first. Fast forward to nearly the end of 2025 financial year, and they don't have a profit on their profit and loss. Now, I'm looking at it being like, okay, well, the story correlates with the numbers. But they were basically then starting to ask about the numbers at this stage. I'm like, really sorry, but you need to be asking about the numbers before making these decisions. So now they're in the unwind, so then they're having to let people go. They're going, well, should I actually be in those premises? But now they're like not enjoying their business as well, which I think is the non-financial impact, but also it means that the business may not exist. So I said to them, why did you start this business to start with? And how did it start? Oh, well, I started selling X, Y, and Z. Okay, and how do those sell now? Before you answer, let me guess. Still your best seller? Yeah, by a mile. Okay. And how many other things are you selling? Oh, we got this, we got that, we got that. And why are you doing that? And I said, again, before you answer, I bet it's because someone suggested you should, or you didn't stop to think, well, just because I can sell them doesn't mean I should. And they were basically like, holy shit, this is exactly what's happened. And I said, look, you've got a really good business here and it's profitable and it works and you've got the data to suggest that. You just went down the wrong path and didn't run the numbers to figure out, can that work? And now you're fucked off of the whole thing. We just need to unwind the decisions in the 2025 chapter, go back to less is more, go back to what you enjoy doing, gave them the love-hate exercise that we often talk about, stick to the things that you started this business for in the first place, and then just build back from there. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but you can never get 2025 back. We can take the lessons from it, but if we want it to change going forward, you've started to change it, that's right, and now we have to do it deliberately going forward for 2026 and beyond.
And then when you're starting to unpack that stuff in a little bit more detail, business owners are all of a sudden, but what if this happens or what if that happens? And it's just like, well, what if it doesn't? Because so many of your fears are unfounded when you unpack them. And a theme that we see across so many business owners is the inability to say no and just stick to your knitting and go, hey, look, we're going to do this and we're going to do it really well. An example I think that's just sprung to my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but at a really big scale for a listed company, would be the warehouse with the warehouse extra. And they tried to take on the supermarkets.
Yeah, some years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're still doing it, maybe at some of their stores, but it ultimately turned into a flop. They were originally thinking, we've got this opportunity, we've got these big, large format stores, we can fit them out, aisles, we take on the duopoly that is Pack and Save and whatever the outfit is, Woolies.
Stuffs and Progressives.
Yeah. And it must have turned out to be a flop because it's not really somewhere that you go, I'm going to go and do my supermarket shopping and I'm going to the warehouse to do it because it's better than the offering that the other providers do. And I don't know whether the warehouse are trying to unwind or what they're doing, but I reckon it's something there that just because they can do it doesn't mean you should. And I bet you there's probably some people sitting around the table going, shit, how do we unwind this? And who was the person that ran the numbers on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good reminder for us too that when it's a big business like that, it's very easy to talk about it transactionally, and they might back out of it and they'll tell their shareholders like, hey, we got this wrong. We can act like that in our businesses too, but I think we feel more emotional because they're our baby and it's what we do. And so then when we fail, we really feel it, and we've got to, try and get ourselves off the canvas and be like, how did I get this wrong?
There's so much pride at stake, and I think people then stake that pride rather on what other people think, and then it's like, oh, you feel like you're going to let other people down? Who fucking cares?
Yeah. Well, I said to this person, let me guess, like someone suggested these things would be good. I'm like, they're off running their own life. They're not fucking, they're not worried about your lease that you're paying those wages and your P&L. Like, I bet if you gave them a ring and said, hey, this is what happened, they'd be like, oh, man, that's a shame. Hey, anyway, what are you up to? Like, what else is happening? Like, are you watching the Warriors tonight? You want to watch another loss?
No, I've got a business to rescue rather than get another hammering.
Yeah. They won't care. So you've got to be very careful, like, who you let come into your environment and tell you, like, what you should or shouldn't be doing. The next step for this person, I said to them, look, once you do some of that stuff and figure out why you're actually doing this business, how you're going to get yourself excited about it again, I said 80-20 those products that are selling the best, but please go and review the margin. Go and have a look at what margin's in them, and go and compare it to the margin that you were selling at in the 2024 and 2023 financial year, because the market suggests, and you've got too much data to tell us that this is wrong, that it worked and that people were willing to pay for it. So please go and run the margin numbers on these products. And so they've got some serious homework that they get to go away and do. And those are the things that an accountant will help you start doing before you launch into something. But it doesn't mean that if you have launched into something and then it hasn't worked out, that business is over. You can unwind these things, but it should be the lesson to go, okay, before making a financial decision, like taking on a lease, taking on an employee, taking on debt, whatever it may be, if it's major, stop and go, you know what, I'm going to get someone to challenge me on the path I'm about to go down.
Yeah, and I think if you're prepared to invest the thinking power of exploring this idea and you're serious about it, take it another step and actually put your money where your mouth is and pay some advice, because it's ultimately going to save you headaches, pain, and potentially losses of cash in the future if you get it wrong.
Yeah, my final one, mate, would be that if you want to do an exercise on your own because you're cheapskate and you don't want to pay for some help, ask yourself, how could I fail? And so do inversion of it. Instead of looking at it with the rose-tinted glasses, be like, okay, what do I need to do to fail in this venture? And then your brain will give you all the answers because it's amazing at being negative.
Oh, 100%.
And then you get to step through and go through like, okay, well, if I take on the lease but don't sell enough stuff and I don't sell enough stuff at enough margin, then that's not going to work. So what's the actual point of taking on the lease? Okay, if I hire this person but don't have enough work for them, not going to be able to pay their wages, you'll be able to identify all of it real quick. Write it all down. There's basically your action sheet to be like, okay, I need to not do all of that
all of that stuff to make sure this works.
Yeah.
And I think the key one at the top of the list would be take your eye off the ball from the stuff that already makes you money.
Yeah. Love it. Right, mate, that's been a goodie. If anybody has any suggestions of topics that they would like to hear about, then feel free to drop us a line or leave a comment on either Spotify or YouTube. You can leave comments these days, or send us an email, lnp@nextadvisory.nz. A reminder, we have a free business planning group on School. If you need that, then you can find that by dropping us a line on Instagram or our free business planning template on our website. Please get out there, kick some ass, and we wish you massive success in the 2026 financial year.